with Isha Shah.
It's okay.
And I'm so sorry. I know your name. I know your name.
It's the trick that I get people.
Isha,
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm sorry because that's about. But like the pressure of saying both names.
Do you know what? I've done this on radio to my friends.
Yeah.
I have said Naomi. Oh, I don't know. I'm getting confused now. I've said the wrong Naomi or Naomi. It's different. Yeah.
I mean, I feel really bad because I have been called cyanide before because of the spelling of my name.
Okay.
And
wait, cyanide.
yeah, I don't know where it came from.
Isn't that a crystal?
No, I think that's like a poison that kills people. I mean, this is a very interesting way to start the podcast.
Of course, I thought it was a crystal. Like, that's cool.
We're gonna get someone comment to be like, it is also a crystal.
I think it's citrine that I'm getting confused.
Yes,
with.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm dyslexic too, so
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Dyslexic. I feel like dyslexic people.
Yeah.
We find each other.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. Thank you for being so kind.
It's all good.
I'm very excited. I've learnt a lot from you through your social medias.
Okay, good to hear.
Yeah, like I found you through Enter Shikari. When they tagged you in some photos like years ago.
Recently then?
No, like probably like 2 years.
Oh wow, that is recently.
Yeah.
I feel like I've known you for longer because you helped with Roots Creatives.
But that was only last year.
God, wow.
That was only 2023.
Times fly then.
Yeah, time be flying.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we're nearly in 2025.
That's scary.
It's terrifying. So I adore your work. You are just so talented is the best way that and hardworking. I don't want to ever say, I will say that you were talented, but you were also hardworking, which is really important they go hand in hand.
Yeah. I hate the word luck. I get a lot of messages like, you're so lucky you do this full time. And it's like, yeah, luck. Interesting.
But I can tell 100% that you were hardworking.
Okay, good to know.
I also have met Enter Shikari and we did have a quick chat about you when I helped with
When was this?
This was a dork. No, this was a dork cover.
Oh, I think I saw the pink one.
Yeah, with SLB, who's amazing.
Yes, Sarah. So
Sarah.
with SLB, I was like, okay, cool. Okay, amazing.
Yeah, and we were talking about you and they were like, isn't she great? And I was like, I haven't met her in real life yet. But yeah, so you're always so kind to reply to DMs. I want to talk about you.
Yes.
So, one thing that I do think has like a link between us is that you were an unapologetic emo kid when you were in your teens.
Yeah, oh God, how did you know that?
And you speak about it.
Do I?
And it makes me be like, with kindred spirits.
I'm not ashamed of it anymore. I used to be, I guess. I used to like queue outside of the Kerrang Awards. Oh my God, there's so many funny stories of how I met some like friends that I still am friends with today.
Yeah. From
being outside the Kerrang Awards, I met Mark Hoppus, and I joke about he saved my life because he technically did. I was running across the road, a car was coming. He was like, "Stop! There's a car!" And I was like, "Mark Hoppus saved my life, guys," because he did. And then I got a picture with him, looking like a little emo girl, and he signed my bass guitar, which I brought, and I still have that. And yeah, I met so many like celebrities there, like artists I love, got pictures with them, had a conversation with Gustav Woods about the moon, and he was like, go home and have a cup of tea and look at the moon. And I was like, damn, he's an Astro boy. Yeah.
So what made you become a live music photographer? I don't think anyone has the same path getting into it.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know, is this what 14-year-old you wanted to do? Or was it like, did you just stumble upon it?
I think it's so interesting because when I was 14 or even 16 or whatever age, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I had no clue. And it's only like now that I'm an adult, I can look back and be like, wow, I was always doing photography in some sorts. Like, when I was in high school, from year 8 to like year 10, I would make like photo albums on Facebook and take pictures of everybody on my little digital camera. And like be like, year 10, year 9, like summer camp, like all these things. And I would make recap videos of our year. So like it's so crazy that I've innately just been doing, and you can they're all private so you can't, but if I unprivatize them, you can go on Facebook and find all these pictures of all my friends just in school doing silly shit, recap videos of us in the skate park falling down, just recap videos of us like running around the school. Like we were crazy, like beating each other up for fun, like in the music room, just like playing the drums, guitars. Like we had our own band. Like I was just really doing everything that I do now professionally though, as a kid, and I was just so unaware of it. Like I had no idea about photography being a business, like being an actual thing. My sixth form, my high school, secondary school, was very like broke and poor. Like I grew up in Harrow, which people think is posh, but that's only one part of it. It's relatively Indian, South Asian, Sri Lankan, Somali, Muslim. So it's very like ethnically diverse. So I never had issues like growing up and like not seeing myself, because like our schools were predominantly, you know, mixed, and it was great. We used to bully each other, so the racism came from within, which it was fine. But it was never like, I always felt like comfortable and safe there. And our school had a photography course, but we had no cameras. That's how broke our school was. There was no cameras. So it was really like, hey, we're going to teach you photography, but we have no cameras. So I never actually studied photography. I've never studied photography in any format. I did media, which then introduced me to like some sort of photo videos. I went to a then prestigious sixth form in Pinner called Hayden, which is quite a known sixth form in the area. Like Nicky Graham, I believe, went there. You know, a few people like Elton John grew up in Pinner. Not sure if he went there, and that was a difference. That was where I experienced a lot of racism, because it was a very white, rich, privileged school. But it was racism that I didn't even know what it was. Like my friend was Sri Lankan, and she would get bullied way more than me because she was darker skinned. And it was just being like unaware of these things until you're an adult. And it was like, okay, so now I'm at this prestigious school where they have cameras, and I borrowed the camera for 2 years. But the cost of that was getting this like racial abuse from people. So it was just really interesting of like the social dynamics of it. And I guess maybe that backlash of stuff made me want to like utilize these equipments, like these cameras, and do something with it. Because to be honest, the people at that school were privileged and had this equipment but did nothing. And I really learned like how to use the camera, to do photography, to do video. I reached out to a band, I believe they were called Not Tonight Alive, Alone Tonight. Oh, they were this really sweet band from Newcastle, and I did a music video for my project and then for them. And they came to London at some place in Guildford, and we did a show. And then they were like, have you got enough footage? And I was like, no. So I actually just travelled to Newcastle to film more footage. And then that's how I kind of got into like the music world. And then during sixth form, I was always in Sheffield. I love Sheffield. The music scene there is like one of the best. I don't know how it is now. Like every week or so, me and my friend, I don't know how we were doing this. We'd get on the megabus for £1, go to Sheffield, go to a gig, and then we'd wait till like 6 a.m, sleep at the bus stop, sleep in a car park, rough it out. We had no fear in the world, and just come back. And I wasn't even doing photography then. It was just me going to gigs. So it was very much like this passion for music.
Very much a will. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, and then we never cared about like where we would sleep. We were just like, we're gonna go there, we're gonna come back. And then there was this festival called Tramlines where I think I saw Bring Me the Horizon. I'm trying to remember Your Demise, a lot of like rocky hardcore bands. And then I saw a tweet that said you can study music journalism at uni. I never thought about higher education, but I did. Like I got an A* in media, I got an A* in film. I never revise. I don't study. I'm not a studier. And thought, okay, something I'm obviously good at. So maybe journalism. I used to love Kerrang and Rock Sound. I was like, I want to be a writer. And I never knew I was dyslexic. And I never knew how bad I was at writing. I got an E in English lit, guys. I don't know what possessed me to take on music journalism. But I did. So I went to uni because of this tweet. Because there's this guy that tweeted it that I followed that I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And went to Southampton Solent. And that is where I really experienced more like access. So started freelancing for the newspaper at the uni, at this publication called Metal something. That was my first publication that got me my first photo pass. And it was for Suicide Silence at Engine Rooms in Southampton. That was my first photo.
Just shout out to Southampton Engine Room.
Yeah.
I'm literally there at least 6 times a month. Like
so many memories.
It's still popping off. I would like to say that.
I'm glad. And the Joiners
is doing great.
Yeah,
they've kind of like made like a friendship. Someone's gonna comment and be like, Sydney, you know it's a partnership and a finance but I don't know. But like sometimes if a gig is gonna be held at the Joiners but it's too big, or like it can't handle the capacity, it will go to the engine rooms.
Oh, engine rooms again.
But I don't, and I think like I'm gonna get it right, then get it wrong. The 1865. Yeah, dyslexia again. You know.
It's I used to go to loads of gigs there. That's why it's imprinted in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just access, and Southampton was a lot like Sheffield in that sense of like there was a really big music scene, the Joiners. That's when I went to my first house show, and I got a notification the other day saying 10 years ago you went to a Creeper house show. And yeah, obviously Creeper were emerging at this time in 2014 and just got like, really like influenced by this band who also, I knew of them before. They were in a band. Oh, I don't remember what they were called, but they were amazing. And then they formed Creeper. So I was like, oh, really invested in this. And Southampton had such like a house show, DIY, Joiners, like Ricky, Kate, like all these people, Martina, like all these people like so prominent in that scene that are still, I'm sure, like acing life and doing well. That, I guess really propelled me to like start doing photo passes, taking photos. I was also reviewing at the same time and realised I kind of just can't be arsed. Like, I don't know, like I'm not a lazy person. I love to work, but I was like, reviewing and taking photos is a lot of work. So I then started just doing photos and someone else would review. And I guess the moment that really like amplified like photography for me was a gig in Southampton. It was Jack Garrett, and this was my third year of uni, and he was playing, and I really wanted to see him, but nobody was getting back to us, and we were applying through Audio Addict, the uni magazine, and I was just like tweeting about it. I was like, can someone get me into this gig? And this guy who used to run a label and he was doing merch for Jack Garrett messaged me, and he was like, oh, like I'll try and send a nudge and see if I can do anything. I hope he's doing well. His name's Connor, so shout out Connor. Hope you're doing good, because you were a part of that, I believe. And I then got a reply on the email, and they were like, yeah, you're approved. Like the PR was like, approved you for PhotoPass. So I went and shot the gig, took some really fun experimental double exposure photos, as I do, go home, edit, went to bed. I woke up and like it was like that moment of all this, like all these years of like hard work from like uni, from sixth form, came to this moment where like the artist himself had reached out, followed me on Twitter, on Instagram, had emailed me and shared my photos and been like, oh my God, these are amazing. I'm playing my last show in Brighton. Can you come? And I woke up and was like, told my housemates and was like, oh my God, I've got uni today. What do I do? Like, oh my God, I'm also flying to Belfast tomorrow. Like, this is crazy. And they were like, just go. Just do it. Don't think about it. And then again, me being on Twitter was like, anyone in Brighton, I can stay at their house for a night because I've got to catch a train to the airport to Belfast. Like, I couldn't really afford to go home. And again, I'm a uni student. I don't have a lot of money. So somebody replied, I keep forgetting who this was, but somebody who I knew from like the music scene let me stay in their living room. So nice of them. So again, I went to Brighton, shot this show, had full access. It was my first experience like working with an artist who's on a label, like a big label. I've worked with loads of artists and put on loads of house shows and like been in that DIY scene. And it almost felt like that was different because like we were like friends and like to a degree it wasn't a professional relationship. This felt like, wow, someone likes my art and likes the creative art. And he was so lovely. And I had like a long chat with him about cameras, about effects, about like how I achieve things. And he was really into that and nerdy. And I met his fiance at the time and his manager, who I still know today and love. And Carly, she's amazing, shot her wedding. So that was a really full moment, full circle moment. And like all these people I still think about, even though I don't work with him anymore. I hope he's still making music, but I still think like these are the people that gave me a really positive insight into working with artists, because my experience now is like, whoa, it's not like that. So yeah, really positive insight. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's like talented, but also cares about the art and the photos. And he was like, yeah, full reign, go ham, do whatever you want.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to stop you. Like,
yeah.
What venue was it?
Oh, I don't know, Brighton. I don't know.
Was it? It wasn't the Dome, was it?
The Dome, there we go. Yes. Yeah, no, it's a great venue to shoot. And I really enjoyed that because I shot him at the Guildhall and then went to the Dome, and it was amazing. And it was just like this overwhelming, like, oh, wow. And like, I didn't think about I guess, photography as a business until that moment. And then a few months after that, his label reached out and was like, we want to use his photos for a little pop-up in Hollywood we're doing to celebrate like our artists and our photographers. And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And then they were like, we'll send you the photo after. And I thought that was really cool. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should reach out to them and like see if I can get work. Because then people started talking about like money and payment. And they actually reached out to me and were like, oh, we don't have like anybody in London to photograph artists. Like their whole marketing was about connecting photographers with artists, and their whole feed was just their artists like photographed by amazing creatives. And honestly, like Interscope Records, I know people think labels are evil, but like shout out them, because they were so great in, first of all, giving me a paid opportunity that was really goodly paid and it wasn't taken advantage, and very like, to my opinion, like on the creative side. And like second of all, like connected me with all the creative friends I have today, because they really cared for like who they were hiring and only hired people with like a creative edge. And I think I really rated that. And the guy who like was in correspondence with me, like I actually ended up meeting him in 2020, and he's such a lovely guy. And he like has been following people on Instagram, and when I meet up with these other creatives, they're like, yeah, like, you know, Chris was following me before he reached out. And I was like, oh my God, that actually means like there's somebody like looking out, and he's not just like a random hire. So again, a really positive experience with this label. And I owe so much to them, like so much of like that chance and that, I guess, openness about rates, because I was scared to discuss like, oh, how much should I charge? And they were like, okay, well, this is how much we pay. And I was like, oh, that's great. Okay, cool. And having that conversation with them really led me to like, I can do photography as a business. I can earn money from it. It can be sustainable. So that was really the start of it, of the third year of uni. But like, bear in mind, I have had no photography like experience in terms of like learning it. I never studied it. Like, I didn't grow up rich. I grew up like relatively on low household income, like very, you know, single mother raising 2 kids in a council flat. So I didn't have my own camera. Like, I was using my sixth form. I was using my unis. I was like renting cameras out. I was doing music journalism. So I wasn't even allowed to rent the expensive cameras. Like, at the time it was like the 5D Mark III. Okay. I could only rent like the 7D or whatever, 70D. Yeah, non-expensive cameras. But it was that access that really, again, helped like from the university. And the people that worked at facilities were quite like, I think because they kind of then knew what I was doing, were kind of like lenient towards me and like let me have like the 1.2 millimeter 50 lens. Like, they were a bit like, oh, okay, it's fine. And it was, I'm really grateful for that trust and that accessibility. And, you know, for my birthday, I think in like 2016, my family did buy me like a really like cheap camera. It was a great camera. It was my 70D. And that's how I started like photography. And like then September of 2017, I graduated uni with a first. Ooh. My dyslexia ass got a first class in journalism. So yeah, I was very proud. Obviously my family were proud, mainly did it for them. And then was like, okay, so what do I want to do in the world? I don't want to work for anybody. I don't want to feed into capitalism, even though technically I do now, but I don't want to feed into a capitalistic company and benefit from them benefiting off me. And I didn't want anybody like taking my money. I wanted to like earn my money and like divvy it out how I wanted to, like give back to communities and charities. So I was like, okay, well, I have to be a freelancer.
I'm gonna say we're gonna get into all of the wonderful things that you do and how you are a spearheading member of the creative, I'm not going to say photography, I'm going to say creative community, because you really are. And I can't wait to dive into that.
For sure.
You've obviously stalked your Instagram, and you have a reel that says you are a freelance, full-time, independent photographer, and you are so proud of that, which you should be. Can you please explain to our listeners what that means?
So what that really means, and like, I have never had a manager, an agent, like anybody. Like, I've never been part of an agency. I've never been signed. So like, I've never had any like financial support. I've never had any backing of any, like, to get contacts. So what I mean by that is I'm self-employed, registered as a self-employed trader with HMRC. I do my own tax returns every year, and I have done for the past 8 years. I look after my expenses, my invoices. I've taught myself how to be a business person. I've basically taught myself how to be a manager, an accountant. And that is how I'm able to keep receipts, keep spreadsheets, log invoices, log expenses, know what to do, what not to do, how to do a tax return, because that's really hard, really, really hard. But also like how to find clients, keep clients, find them, and, you know, make a business for myself. And it's, for me, I'm really proud of, because you compare a lot on Instagram and you see a lot of people doing other things. And it's not to say at all that people who get these big opportunities don't deserve it. But what it's to say is when people get big opportunities and they're signed to like labels, it's the same with artists. You're getting an opportunity because of that label's reputation, whether you want to admit that or not. Like when I work for a magazine and it has 50k followers and I get approved for Olivia Rodrigo, great. But somebody else who just started their up and coming magazine has like 1,000 followers doesn't get approved. I know it's not because I'm more talented. I know it's because the magazine has 50k followers and the PR's interest is numbers. So it's very much being aware of how you get your opportunities. And it doesn't mean that I don't deserve that opportunity, but then it doesn't mean that person who has 1,000 followers doesn't deserve it. So it's kind of looking at perspectives and understanding privilege to an extent of all these things that are really important. So I see, you know, amazing as they're doing, I feel like, well, I'm not far behind them and I'm doing this without any representation. So I feel really proud in that moment of like, okay, well, if they're doing this with a manager, imagine what I would be doing with a manager.
I love it. I love that.
Inspiration rather than competition. That's how I try to view things.
That's amazing. I think, yeah, I'm a full believer in there are enough opportunities for everyone. It's just how we get them. And like,
yes. And how we share them.
Exactly.
Well.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I often see you post if you can't do something and I'm sure you'll send it to people you like, you know, first. But if you can't, it goes on Instagram and you try and find someone in your community to share that with.
Yeah.
And I think that shows real leadership, is that you're like, it's not all for me. Like, for
sure. It's not all. And I feel like the phrase of like, there's enough bread for us all, you know, there's enough food for us all. There's, you know, there's so many abundance of opportunities. And I think the real like selfless thing to do also is to understand if like you don't shoot film photography, which I don't, it's just, never going to do that. If someone comes to me and is like, I want this whole thing to be shot on film, I'll be like, go to this photographer who shoots on film. Because you're going to come to me and get something that I know I'm not capable of doing. And it's not even like, oh, like I can't do it. I probably could. But like, why would I take that opportunity when I just like, I'm not the one fit for it? And I think that's really important to understand, acknowledge.
Yes.
And it's not to say you can't try. It's not to say that. But I think there is this like selfishness of like, it's mine, and people hold on to, well, it came to me. And sometimes you pass that on. It's kind of like, I'm going to bring in one of my most inspirational people to quote, like Pitbull said, when you spend money, you make money. And he's true. Like money is given to us to spend, to share.
We are a fair bit into this podcast, and you've just brought up Pitbull, and I thought it was going to be the first 5 minutes. I thought it was going to be the first 5 minutes.
I didn't know how to do it without being like, just being like, I felt like this was the right moment.
That was the right moment. Yeah. I do believe that. Yeah. I will say that what you said there is, know when an opportunity isn't right for you, not when it's stretching you. Because I think sometimes we'll be faced with opportunities and they may seem bigger than they are, but we can rise to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but like same thing. I've had people come to me and be like, we want this like special effect music video. And I'm like, this person right here, they will, you don't want the headache.
Yes. That's another thing.
Because like if you wanted me to shoot your live show, and there's special effects on the live show, and like that's like maybe I need to up level a couple of times, but do you see what I'm saying? And I agree with you. I just wanted to clarify that because I didn't want someone to take that as a receipt to be like, oh, that opportunity is too big for me. I need to pass it on. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's more of in the case of like, you don't want to stress yourself out. And if you know, like I don't have the passion for film. So you're going to get passionless photos. Like, just don't come, like, not in a rude way, just don't come to me for that. Like, you know, it's fine. Like, I'm at peace with it. And I think that's the thing, like, being at peace with, like, you don't have to do everything and you don't have to be good at everything. Like, I've been doing video since I did photography, and I don't do video half as good as I do photography. That's fine. I don't have to be good at video. Like, I can be okay at it. I can be doing it enough that I can film things, make recap videos, make social content. If you want me to film a music video, hire an actual like DOP, you know, hire somebody who does that. And I think that's like another thing, being at peace with what you can do and what you want to do.
The next thing I do want to talk about is one, finding clients, because I think that's a question I get all the time, is how to find clients. Everyone has different ways of finding them. They are all very similar, but we all have our own way of doing it. And then also the community that you've built, because I think they kind of go hand in hand a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, so it might be very different now how you find clients, because when I started in 2017, it was all to do with like SEO, like keyword searching, like photographers wanted, photographers needed, London photographers on Facebook, on Twitter. Twitter was the main one. So it was really like every day searching for jobs. And I would find a lot of clients on Twitter. Like, so many people just needed photographers. Not that they were like great paying, because my first 2 years were like just shit pay, but a lot of experience learned. So a lot of it is really going out there. I would also email like hundreds of labels and managers, like every day. Like, I would just send emails out like, I want to work with this artist because blah 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 blah. And I still remember, like, I went to see, I think, Jessie Reyes in 2017. And she had this whole speech of like, you can do whatever you want to do. And I was like, okay, I'm going to email you tonight and work with you. And if you don't hire me, then your speech was a lie. And love and behold, I emailed her again. She did ignore that email. I was like, you know, it's fine. I emailed her in 2021. Maybe 2022. She was supporting Billie Eilish on tour in the UK, and I emailed her and I was like, oh my god, I just want to work with you because like I've emailed you before, and like I think because she's a very inspirational woman. She is like a woman who stands on her business. And I was like, yeah, I just feel like you're so cool. And then her PA responded and was like, we actually have a photographer and a videographer, but we love your work, we've seen your emails, you can come along and we can pay you like a very small amount because we don't have it budgeted. And I was like, what? That's crazy. Like, you have a team, but you're also like my work enough to like come along, and also we will pay you something because we value that. And I was just like, oh my god, this is crazy. This is amazing.
Don't ask, don't get.
Yeah.
Don't ask.
Closed mouths,
don't get. Yeah,
for sure. Turned up at the O2 and was like, oh my god. I know Billie had like a no photo rule, but I was like, maybe I'll see her somewhere. And again, I had the most magical experience with like Jessie and her team. Her photographer as well is amazing and so lovely, and just really like warming to me being in his space, because, you know, this is like his domain. And he was doing some portraits with her, and she looked at me and was like, do you want to do some too? And I was like, thanks girl. And we just bonded over both being Capricorn rises, and I think she has like a Taurus moon. She's a Gemini, I'm an Aquarius, so we bonded over like astrology, and that was really cute. And she was just like a human, and like such a lovely woman, and I was like mesmerized by her, because I was like, oh my god, I already loved you before, but now I'm like in love with you, girl. This is crazy. And it was such a nice experience, and her team as well. I just felt at home, and I really feel like that's the difference with UK artists and American artists. Like, when I've worked with American artists, you feel involved, you feel part of the team, you feel valued. In the UK, it's quite dispensable. So I find a lot of my clients are actually American clients, like Interscope, like Dreamville. There's some people from that label, like Ari Lennox and Aaron Ray, who I've met and I still keep in contact with. And every time they have like artists in London, like this guy, like Justin, will hit me up and be like, yo, like, Isha, are you free for a shoot? And like, it's very like last minute, like on iMessage, but because we have a sort of like personal relationship, it's very chill. And it's always like, he always pays me my rates. Like, he's always like, what's your rate? No haggling. He's always like, cool, done. And that's what I really respect about that relationship with American clients. There doesn't tend to be a lot of haggling involved. They're like, cool, we'll pay you this. And when I work for production companies their day rates start at like £800, normally £1,000. Like their day rates are just way better than it is here. Yes, I've been lucky to work with a lot of American clients and still have that loyal relationship. The UK, I'll be so honest with you, they are fragile. They come and go. I've had so many, and it's nothing, personal. I've had so many clients dip and dive, and it's hard to maintain a UK client. And I understand that they want to use different people, and I'm whole here for that. But it's about building a relationship. So the hardest part of me in the UK was being so frustrated with, but like, it doesn't have to be like this. Like, I've seen how it is in America and like how they're loyal and pay you a rate and everyone's happy to work. But in the UK, like, you're just trying to like get the cheapest person. And I've had emails from clients that say, well, this person would do it for less. And I was like, cool, I'm not that person, go with them. Like, I'm not holding you hostage. Like, go with your cheapest person and get cheap work. You
get what you pay for.
You've come to me for a reason. So I think with clients, the biggest thing is like not just about getting them, it's about seeing who values you and who sees you and who respects your time and your boundaries. And when you say like, I'm not going to answer your Zoom call because I have a life and it's 6 p.m. and we're off work, and then they threaten to cut you off the job, which I have had and lost the job because of a client being so demanding and me giving up my time and like, going through stress. I ended up in hospital because of chest pains because of how much stress this client caused me.
That's awful.
And then to find out like they just like, oh, well, you're off the job because you didn't make the Zoom call that we then cancelled. Like I set aside time for them whilst I was at a festival after I got out of hospital. And they were just like, yeah, so we're just going to go with the note. And they sent me this on WhatsApp. And I just replied and was like, you owe me a phone call, not a WhatsApp. And I was very blunt with them. And yes, I will never work with that company ever again. And I'm happy with that because who wants to end up so stressed and then be thrown off a job?
I'm very sorry you went through that experience.
Oh my God, it's so normal these days,
But I think you have to go through the experience.
Yeah.
Obviously do not hospitalize yourself. But
yeah.
We all have to. There's some things I believe we get told and we can like learn, but there are a lot of times you have to go through it yourself.
I agree. Not to say like we need trauma. Like I'm not about that. But like low-key, there's like this Capricorn part of me that's very like harsh and blunt and to the point. And that's like not so much trauma, but like we need to go through trauma and fix it so our children and the other people that we bring in this life don't have to. So I see it that way.
I see that. Like I see that. I thank you for putting it much more eloquently than I did.
No, but like I've just thought about this so much, and I think like to go back to the thing about clients, I think finding clients can be easy, but keeping them can be harder. And I think there is a thing about. One of my friends taught me this, like if you have a client that is going to give you work and income and loads of like money, treat them as a friend, take them out to dinner, buy them a gift, be like, okay, so like, thank you for offering me this job in appreciation. Like, should we go for dinner? Should we go for drinks? I'm going to send some donuts to the office. Like actually kind of butter them up.
Yeah.
And it's not in an invalid way. It's in a way of respect. Like with your friends, you invite them for dinner, you give them gifts on their birthdays. Like I think we need to start seeing clients as also humans and people and treating them, like I say, I haven't actually done this yet. I'm attempting to do it. But it's advice that I've been given that I think everybody also should take on board. It's like it's a relationship. Like clients are also a relationship that you maintain. And for me, it's really unfortunate when, I guess that's why like I feel so emotional when like I get ghosted. And I made a recent thread about this. Like I've gotten ghosted by so many people. And it's not like I take it personally, but there is a part of me like, well, this is personal because we are people.
Yeah.
So how is it not? And how can you work with me for projects and like, elicit like we're going to be working together in the future and then just ghost me? And I just think it's a sign of disrespect. If anything, it's disrespectful.
It is. I do think it's something that needs like accountability. I do think that we live in a society where every relationship can be ghosted, whether that's professional, friendship, romantic. And I do think that ghosting has become so common that people don't understand that actually a text being like, hey, we've decided to go in a different, and actually has nothing to do with you. It's just,
Yeah, I mean, it never does.
but just being like, hey, this is what the situation is, just clearing things up, just having that ounce of more communication would make everyone much happier human beings.
Yeah, I agree. I'm all here for like direct and honest communication, and that's like to a fault. Like, I'm honest to a fault, and I feel like a lot of people are afraid to be direct and honest because of feelings. And I'm like, wait, I thought this wasn't a personal relationship, it was a professional. So what has feelings got to do with it? So in many times in my experience, I have managed the manager.
Yeah.
I have been the one to put my foot down, be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how much I'm getting paid. And I guess that's just something as a woman, as having that feminine nature to like nurture and kind of, I don't know, I guess try and make people feel comfortable, but then also get into the point of things. I feel like that's just innately in me.
Yeah, you definitely, even from your socials or when you talk about things or the groups that you have fostered, definitely get that nurturing vibe from you. It is another thing where you just don't want it to go too far, do you? You see, like,
Yeah,
you want to make sure that you're looking after yourself.
yeah. That's why we all need therapy.
And we 100% do.
We all need therapy. Everybody in this industry needs therapy. There should be therapists working with artists and their crew and on tour. And like, I would love to like set up some sort of campaign for that to happen, for like therapy to be given to like artist teams, because it's not just the artist who needs therapy, it's everybody.
Yeah, I can definitely, because sometimes artists don't even know what's going on. And it's shocking to me. Like, it's shocking.
It really is. Like, people even in these worlds are in their own worlds.
Yeah. Off the back of that, this is obviously a really harsh industry. As you said, everyone needs therapy in it. How have you fostered a community, one, that you are able to give back, like you said earlier, but two, that's helped you move forward?
That's a really good one. I've always, like, for me, giving back and like supporting who supported you is so important. I think culturally, like, coming from like an immigrant family, like Indian Kenyan, it's always about like, how can we feed you? You always have to leave a house full. So that's the kind of mentality that I kind of take. And I think Roots Creatives came off the back of a uni project. So I had this magazine in uni called New Roots, and it was me and a bunch of people from the course making a monthly magazine that was like, with all due respect, like, we're not just going to cover a big artist for the cover. We would put on like bands and artists who had like 200 followers. We did not care about numbers. We were like a DIY grassroots monthly magazine existing online that would just like good music. And a lot of the music was from the south of England, some from up north. And we would just like do features with them, use their existing pictures and, you know, highlight them. And that was me actually connecting with the local communities, connecting with bands, putting on house shows. I've had people like Wallflower, who I don't know if they're still doing music, but they were like one of the pivotal bands in my like uni days, who was so fun and supportive and just so cool. Bands like Creeper, Narwhals. We had Tom from Narwhals in our house doing a little acoustic set. I don't know how that happened. We had Crywank. He's also like doing really well. He came to our house as well. Don't know how that happened. We've had so many. Rome. Oh my God, how can I forget about Rome? Rome were a pop punk band. R.I.P. They've broken up, but they were a big part of my like gigging days. And I got really close like with that band, and they came to my house and played a house show after they supported the story so far in Knuckle Puck, and it was really crazy. I was like, wow, this is a dream of creating these communities of all these people, and I wanted to translate that from the artist to the creative. So Roots Creatives was like the sister brand from New Roots, essentially. And this was all about the same ethos of New Roots, but it was basically all about the creatives, the people behind the scenes, the people behind the camera, the artist, you know, the painter, the photographer, the videographer. And it was about showcasing these people and putting them in the spotlight, because a lot of creatives don't show their face. They don't want to show people how they look, and I understand that, we're behind the camera. But I really then developed an understanding of like, to face insecurity and be in front of the camera and like this is easier when I'm on photo shoots. I can show models how to pose and learn how to pose. And honestly, just accept how we all look and be at peace with how we look. And just be like, well, you know, we're given these features for a reason from our ancestors. Like, it's not something we need to change and we need to alter. And yeah, maybe some days you want to wear a bit more makeup than others. Like, I'm totally here for makeup and totally here for that. And like, that's great. But I feel like we shouldn't be altering ourselves and who we are at the core. So then I started being in front of the camera and wanting other people to follow. And I feel like that's quite infectious when you can convince other people that they are worth being seen. Because so much of the time we don't want to be seen, and it's all a protectiveness, because it's scary to be seen. When you're seen, you're judged, people comment. God, it's getting quite emotional. It's harsh. It's harsh to be seen.
I feel that. I feel like even right now we have if you're not watching this on the live recording, we have a massive screen behind the camera that shows us. And I have just looked at the camera and I can see I'm slouching, and I'm just gonna have to roll with it because that's. But
I'm not even gonna look at the camera. But of course, I knew I was going to cry in this interview. I'm just emotional. And you know what? I love that. Like, don't even cut it out. No. Like, let it be. Cry, guys. Cry on the train. Cry at the gym. Like, it's good. But I think that is the whole point of this community. Like, getting people seen and getting people with a platform, you know, with my platform. And Roots Creative has never been something big. And I never have wanted it to be this massive thing that works with like Adidas and Nike, because that doesn't really resonate with the brand. It always is just me. I did have a friend, Eleni, who would help me with the assets for a couple of years. And we did loads of print stores that donated to various charities. But it was always my passion project. And I always kind of wanted it to just be this grassroots thing. And we had meetups in London. And I remember one in 2018 in Box Park, and there was 40 of us turned up. Wow. Creators, photographers, stylists, artists, dancers. And we got kicked out of Box Park because there was too many of us. And then we went to the park and we just did like, I had no plan. I thought there'd be 5 people. And it just shows like how impactful the London community and scene is. And we would just all shoot together.
I'm just going to say, I want to point out, it just shows how impactful you are as well in that community. Do not remove yourself from that, because those 40 people have not showed up if it wasn't for you.
Good reminder sometimes. Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really a struggle to keep your passion project alive, because Roots Creatives has been around since 2018, but it's not been active. I've taken a year off. The last time it was active last year, I got into like my activist helping era and started this creative fund. And it's an idea I've had for ages. The issue I found is people aren't as supportive. So the whole premise of the Creatives Fund is creatives would pledge a percentage of their earnings to donate to this fund, and then we would use that to buy equipment and buy things to underprivileged creatives, because you know this industry is very expensive. It's very hard. Sorry, some cat hair from my cat. little reminder there. So that was the premise of it, and then people started, like, you know, yourself donating a camera, like a full-on camera, lenses, gear, and that was sent for free. You know, that was like a kind act, and that's what we're really looking for.
I remember when, I'm not going to toot my own horn here, but maybe this might encourage someone else who's listening. That camera was sitting in my cupboard. Those items, like, they weren't being used. And as much as I love to help people, I felt sad that the camera wasn't doing its job.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, this doesn't want to be sitting here collecting dust. Like, this wants to be out and shooting. And like, I'm quite emotional. So like, when I gave my car, like when I got a new car, I was like, it's time for this car to like have its next life. You know what I mean? So I think, like, I don't think, I've almost felt like I was hoarding resources. I know it's just a camera and a couple lenses.
It makes sense.
But I just really, and also like, I got to see someone else make art.
Exactly. Which is really like wholesome. And it's the same with me. I gave away that first camera my family bought me, the 70D, to and I put it out there. I think I put it out there for women only, because I was like, if you know me, men, goodbye. We don't need to talk about them. I'm here for the women. I'm here for the women of color. I'm here for the non-binary, the queer, like anybody who is considered like different to, I guess, what society used to think. So I'm going to use the term global majority now instead of minority, because it's more true and it's more empowering to me. I'm here for that. So this young girl told me a story about how her dad was a photographer, you know, he passed away, and how she was never able to do that. And it's very similar to my story, because I never knew my dad, and he apparently was not a photographer, he was a sculptor in Kenya. And he was also very well known and very respected. And he was also this community facilitator who brought the first computer with internet to this village. I don't remember if it's Nairobi or Mombasa, but in Kenya, and put it in a community centre for all the kids to use. And Amazing. He would do photography as a hobby, and was helping build the first railway tracks and all these things that I'm like, oh, I get the very like business side from my dad, and that story resonated with me. So I was like, oh my God, this girl has to have it. So I met her, gave her the camera, such a sweet girl. And she does like a lot of documentary photography, black and white. And she's like so grateful. And it's that feeling of like being able to pass that kind of generational, I don't know, not trauma, but generational inspiration to somebody else. Same with like giving out the hard drives, you know, Movies donated as well. And I would love to carry it on, but I did the opportunity with Enter Shikari and giving a woman a chance to come, you know, and photograph first 3 and giving a little chat. And all these people were so great and so inspiring. And all the images were like just as good as like anything I've ever seen. I was like, this is literally proving my point of all it means is you just need an opportunity. Because like all of them did exceptionally well. Not that I'm shocked, but just like it just shows. Yeah. They just needed that opportunity.
I love what you've said there, but I do want to touch on Enter Shikari, because a lot of people, I get a lot of people always ask me about tours, and I'm like, I've not done a tour. So can we talk a little bit about touring? One of my favorite things was, one of your stories when you were like editing and watching a Scream film.
It was Saw. That tour I watched Saw 1 to 10. In the first 2 weeks of the tour, and then I was like, fuck, what am I going to do now?
How long was the tour?
3.5 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, I would be, oh God. My boss even came in and saw me. Like, he came on some of the tour dates and was like, I had to like put my screen down because I was watching like Saw 8 and there's people like cutting blood everywhere. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, you know, just creative research.
Yeah.
Creative research.
What's it like touring? Hold on. Yeah. What's it like touring?
Yeah.
As a female with a male band?
This question is so interesting.
Okay.
Because for me, it's never like been a choice of me like, I want to work with white men. Right? But it has been like, I want to have that experience. So my first proper tours were with all Canadian bands, all very small Canadian bands. I went to Canada in 2016, did my first tour in a van with a UK band, a Canadian band, didn't know anyone. I knew one guy.
Had you ever been to Canada before?
No. I don't know what was going through the brain of mine. I knew one guy from that band and was like, it'll be fine. Just go on the road with like 8 men.
Just trust the vibes. Yeah, like just trust your vibes.
I could have, and it was also like a very financial thing because I wasn't actually getting paid for that tour. I was getting all the travel there in Canada and accommodation covered, but flights, and that was obviously financial for me. My aunt and uncle had to like help because they're a bit more like, you know, I guess well off, you know, with finances, because it's not cheap to just fly to Canada, and it's not something that I just could do. And there was loads of conversations with my parents, and my mum was very much like asking all these, like, how do you know these guys? And I kind of lied. I was like, yeah, of course I do. She's like, they're men though, different. You're gonna see with different rooms. I was like, yeah, sure. Sleeping in the van with like everybody. But that tour was really like family bonding. They were all such lovely people and very like, you know, I do say like, yeah, man, but like they were like the good guys, I would say, the few that do exist in the world, very sweet. And from that I met loads of Canadian bands. So then in 2017 when I graduated uni, I went on tour with a Canadian band from there in the UK, and that was amazing. That was fun and I loved them. And then I went back in 2018 to Canada in America and did a tour with another Canadian band, and that was like, I feel like that was when I first started realizing things of like, yes, like being the only woman on these tours is draining and is taxing. And I've had not just like that experience, but every experience I have had has been that, because you then represent like all women, even though I'm a brown woman, so I don't represent every woman. I represent you know, who I am. And
yeah.
even then, I don't even represent all brown women. So it's a lot to like deal with and have to do. And there's so much like microaggressions. And I think there's a lot to do with like not being educated and understanding. And I've had instances where I guess I've like tried to stood up for myself, and it's come in my face of like, well, you always talk about feminism and like blah, 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 blah. And like people dismissing actual issues and not wanting to go into it. And tours where like I have been a little bit mocked because of like the way that I talk, which is so weird to me because I don't think I talk like from the South and like using slang and, you know, all these words like in it and all this and that. And like, yeah, I'm from like London, I'm from Harrow, I'm from areas where we do have slang and, you know, I would say in it a lot and is it a lot. And like, that's just who I am. But I would get like a little bit mocked of that. And like, a lot of it felt very racially charged. It felt very like they're only saying it to me because they think I'm brown or black, or they think I'm from a certain area, and they wouldn't do this to somebody else. And just, yeah, not treated, I guess, the same. And it was very apparent, like, of what and why. And I very got into, like, the psychology of that from my own research, and, like, very much more into, like, I guess, activism and, like, all those, like, words, like, feminism, and all into, like, all these things that are about, like, just the freedom and the equality and, like, that. It is hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is hard. And any woman who says they've been on tour and never had issues is lying or is not aware of it. Because there's so many microaggressions. There's so many. Whether it doesn't have to be from the crew. It can be from the security. There was a tour I did 2022 with Simple Plan. And I was actually crying because me and the other photographer went outside the venue in, I don't remember where it was, somewhere in Europe, and we were getting shot, and then we were trying to get back into the venue. We had our access all areas passes, and the security guard wouldn't believe us. They wouldn't let us back in, and they were chasing us, and we were running, and my friend was filming it, and I was crying, and I was like, they're on in 10 minutes, what am I gonna do? And I was messaging the tour manager, and he was such a lovely British guy, so lovely, really took on the embodiment of being the tour dad.
Yeah.
And was like, don't worry, gonna come to get you, gonna sort it out. So I felt really supported in that instance where, you know, I was saved by a man, but then also like, why did a man have to save me? Like, why were these security guards like not believing these passes were real?
You definitely can get to a situation where the team you're with can be the most amazing one, but you do have to deal with people outside your team.
Oh yeah.
And that can also be a problem. And the team can't always control that. They can't control who's affected.
Yes.
Yeah, does that make...
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that I kind of feel. I feel like now that I've had all this experience, like, there's good, don't get me wrong. I've had so many good experiences, but there's also a lot of, like, bad experiences, which have taught me a lot of things. And things can happen in teams. Things can happen in, you know, labels, in managements, in crew, in, like, in anywhere. And it's about like how they address these issues. Yeah. How do they deal with things? Because you can preach as much as you want about all these things that sound good, but when it happens to you and when it happens to people in your camp, how does that actually reflect? How does that actually work? So I've had a lot of experience with these things, a lot of experiences with men just not treating me as an equal, to put it bluntly. A lot of that. I've been lucky in the sense that it hasn't escalated to other instances where other women have confided in me, you know, about instances with men, either being on tour, working at gigs, just creatives in the industry, like other people, and where that's not my story to tell, it's my story to support. Yeah. And it's also my story to like make people think and be aware of like, who are we hiring? Like, who is this photographer? Like, even when you're hiring me, know that you are hiring somebody. If I see you acting wrong, I will call you up on it. I will correct it. I am not somebody that sits back and lets people joke about things that are, you know, you shouldn't be joking about. Things like I've been in rooms full of just white men talking about racism, and I'm like, you historically cannot. And it's just really uncomfortable because I don't want to have to speak up for I don't want to have to educate you. I'm not your mother. Exactly. I'm not your therapist. I've been so many people's therapist and I'm not. And it's very taxing because the female energy loads of men have female energy, and there's a tour that I went on where I was so lucky. One guy was very like heavily involved in his female energy, and he was my rock because he could really tap into that, and I was like, thank God. Again, American, of course, do prefer that sort of energy because they're more like spiritual and honest. And it's really hard because when you're only that female energy in that touring life, people project onto you, put things onto you, use you as a punching bag, use you as a therapist, like say things to you that they think is acceptable and it isn't. And it's about calling that out and like putting a stop to that. And I'm okay with not working with people if they have problematic people in that team. I'm okay with that. I don't need to work with you. I don't need to put myself through that trauma. But I think for me, I have to speak about it, and there has to be ways that I've realized it's hard to speak about these things because the victim is always blamed.
Yeah,
no one's believed because how could this band, and it's hardly ever even the bands, they're really unaware of things. How could this be going on?
I will say that I do think bands, I hope in the future, or even like starting more recently, will sit there and go, oh, hold on a second. When these bad things happen on tour, when these bad things happen in our team, it's actually our name that gets dragged through. Yeah. Because that's the most recognizable.
Yeah.
And I hope that kind of they take that ownership.
Which is true, but then it's also sad.
Yeah.
Because it's sad that you would have to care more about your reputation than the individual being harmed. But I understand it is business. Like I can separate the two, but I do think we need some sort of vetting. We need some sort of vetting other than word of mouth. It's a boys' club. It's a men's club out there. Men recommend men, and it's always white men. And I'm not saying that white men are evil, but I'm just saying, look at statistics, look at facts, look at serial killers, look at the people who are doing horrendous things in the world. And that could be someone you're hiring.
Yeah.
We need some protocol, and I would love to like campaign for some sort of like, I don't know, like DBS check on people, some proper thing. And this goes always, not just men, but like with anyone you're hiring. Because I think the issue I faced is women telling me how problematic and harmful these men are, and seeing them still be hired, seeing them in positions of power, seeing them as managers. Me then telling other men and seeing them men work with these artists. So even when I see people photograph, I will DM them. I won't be public about it. I'll DM them and be like, oh, did you know? Here's a link to an article. This person has sexual assault allegations. And then it's up to them. And if they ignore what I'm saying, then, in my opinion, I'll probably unfollow them, because to me, we don't align morally. We don't align energetically. And they've had the information. I don't need to like be like, oh my God, but you're still doing this. I'll just let it go. But I will be disappointed in humans that we are allowing these horrendous people have platforms.
Yeah.
I know, that was a lot.
I've no word to say.
There was a lot.
You said a lot.
Accountability, basically, guys. We can be accountable for ourselves too. We what I'm trying to say is we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
I make mistakes.
I appreciate you sharing that you've made mistakes. Or
yes, I still do.
Yeah. It's just it's just how you react to your mistakes. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to ignore it? Are you going to...
Exactly. It's
bury your head in the sand?
Action.
Yeah.
It's the action you take.
I am going to segue because we have talked a lot.
We talk so much. There's so much we can talk about.
Yeah, 100%. I do want to discuss what... we touched on rates. We've touched on everything. Maybe it's not like the normal format, guys, but we have touched on everything today.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about giving yourself some flowers. So have you got anything in the works? Is there anything you want to be doing? Is there anything that you want to call in or just shed some light on that?
Well, if anyone knows me, the one thing that I would love to call in, any contacts can help me, Mr. Worldwide, Mr. 305, Pitbull.
You've only mentioned Pitbull twice.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
I've restricted myself.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Yeah.
I was here for it.
This whole interview would be quotes, Kodak, rhyming with Kodak. It will be every day above ground is a great day. Remember that. Like, there's so many quotes I would say, but I'm not going to embarrass myself here. But that would be the dream.
I think we should start making t-shirts.
Petition. I dressed up as him. I manifested it by dressing up as him as Halloween.
Okay.
I don't stop talking about him. I don't stop thinking about him. He is my happy place. He is. I honestly believe, and I will be so heartbroken if anything comes out. I honestly believe he's one of the most great artists out there. He's been relevant for decades. He's been relevant since he was Pitbull. Yeah. He, to me, is like so inspirational, and he doesn't give up. He does a lot. He's got his own gluten-free vodka line. He's got Mr. 305 Inc. He's got his own company. He's got his own label. Like, this man's unstoppable. He's now coming to the UK. Like, I would love... Actually, no. I am going to work with him. I'm already there. Okay. Like, I'm already in an email thread that is going to be sent. So that's what is going to be the best thing of my life.
Isha shoots Pitbull 2025.
Mrs. Worldwide shoots Mr. Worldwide.
I'm 2025.
Yeah, it's happening.
I want hats. I want merch.
I also have said to my friends, I will dress up as him and shoot him in the photo pit. I will do that. If I get a photo pass, if I work with him, different story. I might have to be professional there. But I firmly believe energetically, like, there's an alignment. But if we're talking about like daily things, I think what I really want to do is I am moving away from typical photography. Okay. Because I will be honest, I do find it at this point in time soul destroying. Okay. To see I'm just taking photos of these lame-ass artists who are getting paid millions of pounds to be on stage while people are dying and being bombed. And I find it so desensitizing that I'm not connected with the world and what's happening in humans. And I'm not using my platform other than sharing an infographic on Instagram and ranting on Twitter about how are we celebrating Thanksgiving, there's a genocide happening, and like being this ranting human. And I want to like put my energy into places that are more impactful. So while that means like I'll still love photography, I'll still be here, I'll still be doing it, I want to do more impactful forms of creativity. Okay. So more impactful forms of photography, whether that's documentaries, filming, interviewing people, highlighting people, showcasing people, getting more into food unites us. I feel like food is the one thing that we can all, like music, agree on, unites us, brings us around, brings communities. Get more into putting myself in front of the camera, presenting.
I do love your food Instagram. I just want to say that if you are vegan,
I don't post that much, but yeah,
I think maybe I follow both of them.
TikTok.
So maybe that's what it is.
I do a lot.
But I have a friend who's vegan, and I've been like, shall I make you this? And she's like, yes, please.
I love that. I do love that. I need to take it more seriously. I just do it for fun. I love food. I love cooking. Again, nutrition is so important. Healthiness is so important. Actually, like being educated. I think education is the pinnacle of what I love to do. Mm-hmm. So doing that through photography, sharing experiences, so important. Sharing food, sharing also astrology. I'm so into spirituality and how to better ourselves and our understanding of why we're on this planet and why we're here, and being a bit more philosophical. I want to get more into presenting, and I'm going to be doing all these things. And really and truly, the end goal, there isn't really an end goal, but it would be having my own restaurant, cafe, having like poetry nights, gigs, all for free, having like supper clubs, feeding, the homeless people on the streets, changing the laws with like how food companies throw everything in the bins and destroy it, so homeless people can't get it, trying to like make some sort of like combat to that, changing the industry so more women of colour, anybody who is like queer or anybody who's been othered to be in the limelight. So having an agency that showcases and highlights them and gets them more jobs and pushes that. And hopefully like having some sort of school where I can educate anybody of any age, of any background for free, and having funding and based around the birth chart and creativity. So teaching people in different ways where they're innately going to learn, and also heal people. So yeah, just a lot of like just some small dreams.
Just teeny tiny
small dreams.
I think you should dream bigger, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I you know what, I think so. I think there's just not enough.
No,
there's not enough. There's always more that can be done.
If anyone is watching this in America, they're not going to understand that was sarcasm. And I'm going to get a comment.
Oh yeah, right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been a wonderful time that we have spent together. If you are not motivated by this episode. I don't know what to do.
This was me doing my typical Twitter rant on a podcast, but being toned down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a time limit, guys, that we could be in here.
Yeah.
I am sorry for having to like.
It's fine.
But
I think we got through a good important chunk of
100%.
important things, and like, you know, if you need any more information, feel free to, like, people out there, like, hit me up. I will give you rough, like, ball marks on how to license or price things, you know.
I think we didn't get into licensing, or we did a bit of pricing, but I'm gonna have to do a whole episode on pricing. Like,
I think
on licensing,
yeah,
because I am passionate about licensing, because that is how I make most of my money.
It's so true. It's how photographers historically have made most of their money, and we don't talk about that enough.
I do want to say though, never ever give away your rights to your copy of your photos
and your raws.
Never give your raws away, unless someone wants to pay 3 zeros bare minimum for your raws, and I'm talking per image here. And never give away your licensing or ownership of yours.
Agreed. That's why you just say usage. What is a usage for these photos? And then you can charge per whatever. Yeah,
definitely. Deliverable, usage, and ownership. Because I promise you, the artists that you guys are shooting in a pit at the moment, they will have Netflix documentaries in a few years' time, in like 10 years' time. That is your retirement plan.
For sure.
Because,
For sure. Just remember that.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
I will link to everything that you were doing, which is a lot.
I also teach, by the way. I'm a lecturer.
I know. We didn't even get onto this.
You know what? If you want to change a system, you got to be in the system. Shout out to my students. I love them. They're so inspirational.
I wish you were my lecturer, but I mean, I did do a politics degree, so we probably shouldn't.
Oh, that would be very, very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah.
I will link to everything that you're doing. I will be constantly shouting you out. Don't you worry about that. Obviously, you can always comment on the podcast. You can reach out to either our DMs. But for now, team, I will catch you later.
Bye.